Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, everyone. Today is Friday, May 9th, 2025. It is also the 11th of the month of ER, 5785. So it's the 11th of ER, which means we're on a waxing moon right now, full in 3 or 4 days. Um, the Willamette River today is flowing at 12,500 cubic feet per second. It fluctuates radically. So we are much lower than we have been in the spring so far. And we are actually below the 25th percentile. So we are definitely on the low side of flow rates for this day in history of our Willamette River. So it's gone down quite a bit over the last few weeks. In the sky tonight, planets that if you get up early enough, uh, Venus probably won't be visible tonight. Mars will be visible. If you get up early enough, you could see Jupiter and Saturn, but you'd have to get up while it's still dark, um, while it's still very dark in order to see them. Also, constellations in the sky tonight are Orion, Scorpius, Ursa Major, and Gemini. And today is the 26th day of the Omer, the period between Pesach and Shavuot. Between Pesach, which is one of the most important pilgrimage festivals of our tradition, and Shavuot, which is the second one of three, the three regalim, the three pilgrimage festivals, which are a big deal in Judaism, are Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. So Pesach happened now 26 days ago, and now we are moving towards Shavuot, which is the commemoration of the wheat harvest that happens in the Middle East, and also the commemoration of receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. So a really big deal holiday. Hope you will join us for those celebrations on June 1st. This week's parasha is Aharei Mot Kedoshim. It's a double parasha from the book of Vayikra. Aharei Mot means after the death of. We'll see in a moment that it refers to after the death of Aaron's sons Nadav and Avihu. And then and Kedoshim contains this very, very, very sacred section of the Torah called the Holiness Code, Leviticus 19. It's To me, it's sort of like the heart of the Torah. It outlines many of our ethical precepts and some of our values, actually, as a people, as opposed to simply just laws. There's a lot of expression of values in this section. So I wanted to look at something from the very beginning of the parasha. So the verse begins, וידבר אדוני אל משה אחרי מות שני בני אהרון בקרבתם לפני אדוני וימותו. Hashem spoke to Moshe after the death of the two sons of Aharon, who died when they drew close to the presence of Hashem. And then it says, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, daber el Aharon achicha, va'al yavo b'chol et el hakodesh mibeit laparochet, el pnei kaporet asher al ha'aron, v'lo yamut, ki ba'anan era'eh al hakaporet. So Hashem said to Moshe, tell your brother Aharon that he is not to come at all times, it will, when any old time, into the area that is behind the curtain in front of the cover that is upon the ark, lest he die. For I, Hashem, appear in the cloud over the ark. So what he's talking about is what the Torah is talking about is you can't come at all times into the area that's called the Holy of Holies, which is where the ark would sit with the Ten Commandments in it, the tablets that Moshe brought down from Har Sinai that had the Aseret HaDibrot written on them. Not to come just at any old time into that area. What this means for most commentators is that there's only one person who goes into the Holy of Holies one time per year. So that person is the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, and the one time per year is on Yom Kippur. However, um, there's a machloket, there's a disagreement amongst commentators about that. And I'm going to be looking at the opinions today that say it's not about entering just one time. It's you can enter into the Aron, into the Holy of Holies at any point as long as you are following a particular kind of protocol. This is relevant because one of the the obligations that Jews have is to pray 3 times per day. And each one of these prayers that are done in the evening, the morning, and the afternoon, each one of these prayers is an act of spiritually stepping into the Holy of Holies. Okay? So the Vayikra Rabbah, which is an ancient collection of rabbinic teachings, says Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeMoshe Lo Kishem Sha'ata Savur. The Holy One said to Moshe, it's not you're making a mistake. It's not how you are reasoning. Ele bechol sha'a shehu rotze lekanes yekanes. Rather, any time that you, at any moment, any time that you want to enter into the Holy of Holies, you can enter. Rak sheikanes baseder hazeh, but you'll have to do it with this particular prescribed order. And what is that prescribed order? Well, two things are offered. Rabbi Yehuda beRabbi Elai Amar bishloshim v'shisha zugin bishloshim v'shisha rimonim, means that you have to enter, when you enter into the Holy of Holies, you should do so with 36 bells and 36 pomegranates. And the rabbi said with 72 bells and 72 pomegranates. And what they're talking about is the clothing that you wear, that the priests would wear when they enter into the Holy of Holies. So many of you know this song by the Byrds called "Turn, Turn, Turn," which is actually based on Ecclesiastes. It is almost a direct quote of Ecclesiastes 3. The song goes, to every season there, to everything there is a season. Turn, turn, turn. And one of the quotes that they use from the book of Ecclesiastes, or as we call it in Hebrew, Kohelet, they say, there is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to gain and a time to lose, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time for love and a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. So on that line that says a time for love and a time for hate, Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Kaidenover, who was born in Vilna in 1650 and died in Frankfurt in 1712, who wrote this book called the Kav HaYashar, the straight line. He says very beautifully, with reference to our verse, because the verse says that Aharon should not go into the Holy of Holies bechol eight. Really, really, that means in Hebrew it means at any time, but eight can also, yeah. So, but at any time. So, what does that mean? What is that implying? And the Kava Yashar says there are times that are under the influence of the realm of holiness, and there are times that are under the influence of the Sitra Achra, which means the other side. It is, and for the purposes here, I want to explain that the realm of holiness is that is are all those things under which the conditions of life are met such that life flourishes. So Judaism is really all about creating, maintaining, and nurturing the conditions which foster life and avoiding those conditions which foster death. Okay? So the Sitra Achara, the other side, literally in Aramaic, means the dark side. That is to say, the forces that are connected to death and destruction. So there are times that are under the influence of the realm of holiness, and there are times that are under the influence of the Sitra Achra. A time that is under the holy influence is called a time of favor, which is eight ratzon, a time of desire, eight ratzon. So that's the same word, eight, as in Aaron shall not come in at any time, bechol eight. Here we're referring to another kind of time, which is eight ratzon, the time of desire, which is the time which is under the holy influence. And there is a time that is illuminated by the name Adonai, Yud-He Vav-He, which we pronounce as Adonai, which is important to understand that for Kabbalists like him, Adonai is a euphemism for the Shekhinah, for God's presence, the presence of God. So a time that is under the influence of the Sitra Achra, on the other hand, is called Eit Puraniot, the time of troubles, the time of trials or punishments. Puraniot are associated with things that are harmful or bring about death. And these afflictions emanate from the Sitra Achra, the other side. For this reason, he says, Israel, that is us, have been warned to stay away from the entrance to her house and to avoid this and all the work of evil that are dependent upon it. So it's a very, very clear statement here that Jews are warned to stay away from that which brings about death and destruction. Instead, he says, they must draw as near as possible and cling as closely as possible to the Eit Ratzon, the time of desire, the favorable time, which is associated with the Shekhinah. For the Shekhinah encompasses all the souls of the people of Israel. In fact, she encompasses all the souls of all beings in the world. And here he's talking about a particular way that they speak about that encompasses all the souls of Israel, for which reason the Shekhinah is called Knesset Yisrael, the congregation of Israel. Regarding this, the Torah warns in Kohelet 3:8, there is a time to love. Okay, from the verse we just looked at from the song by the birds, there is a time to love. So that is to say, one must enter into a consciousness which is about loving the Shekhinah, about loving God's presence in the world, and in fact loving the world itself as the manifestation of Shekhinah. And there is a time to hate. Okay, that is to say a time that we should avoid. So there is a time to love, which we must engage, and there is a time to hate, which we must avoid. That is to say one must thwart the Sitra Achra, which is connected to death. A proof of this, he says, can be drawn from the Torah's warning to the Kohen Gadol regarding his entry into the Holy of Holies to arouse mercy for Israel. When the Torah says, let him not come at all times, bechol eit, into the holy precinct, into the Kodesh HaKodashim. In other words, the Torah adjures the high priest, which symbolically is representative of all of us when we enter into prayer. In other words, the Torah adjures the high priest to enter only with thoughts of holiness, especially on Yom Kippur, which is a time of favor. For this was the day that Israel received atonement for the sin of the golden calf, for which reason it was established as a day of forgiveness and atonement for all generations. Therefore, it is forbidden for the Kohen Gadol to enter the Holy of Holies with thoughts emanating from the Sitra Achra, God forbid. The priest must enter with only holy thoughts of love and compassion. So when you enter into prayer, the MO there is to enter in for the sake of love, for the sake of the well-being of all creatures, including our own people. On this, to add to this, Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, the Baal Shem Tov, says that ish chacham umaskil yiten lev lahavin ki tza'ad sheyesh la'adam hu ki tza'ar sheyesh la'adam hu tza'ar hashchina. Any wise and discerning person will realize that any pain that you experience is the pain of the divine presence. As the Talmud says, when a person suffers, What does the Shekhinah say? The Shekhinah says, "Oh, my head hurts," or "My arm hurts me." So that the idea is that when you are in pain, you have a headache, or you've injured your arm in some way, or you're experiencing pain in your arm, that is a reflection of what the Shekhinah is feeling. So in this fundamental way, prayer should connect you to all beings by moving things out of the personal and into a collective way of thinking. So when you have a headache, for example, it's because of the way that suffering works. It's so deeply personal. I mean, when you hurt, it's almost like all you can think about is your pain. And what the Baal Shem Tov and what the Kava Yashar is recommending here as a spiritual practice is that when you go to pray about that pain, or when you enter into the Amidah, the prayers that we say 3 times per day, when you enter into that, it's like entering into the Holy of Holies, and you should bring the Shekhinah with you. Because the pain that you're having in your head represents a pain that the Shekhinah is feeling, and an immediate way you get it is that you're not the only person in the world having a headache. You're not the only person in the world experiencing suffering. In fact, the suffering that you're experiencing is exactly the same as the suffering of many other people. And in this way, throughout the world, and in this way, you contextualize your suffering in connection to the whole, in connection to God. You sacralize what you are going through. And then from that place, you can pray for your own healing, but you're also praying for the healing of the world. You're praying for the healing of the Shekhinah, and you're praying for the healing of all those beings who are in pain in this moment. So the Baal Shem Tov continues, thus a person should realize that prayer is not for your own sake, but for a higher purpose, for the good of the Shekhinah. Okay? All souls, he says, are part of the Shekhinah, and you too will be answered when you pray in this way. Okay? So the message here again, and this is experientially true. You can experience this on yourself by experimenting yourself. When you are noticing anything that is painful or uncomfortable in the world to you, it might be wars, it might be a relationship, it might be a physical sensation you're having. That lack is not just a lack in you, it is a lack in the world. It is a pain that is in the world. It is a pain that is felt by the Shekhinah. It is, in fact, a manifestation of the pain that the Shekhinah is in. When you move from yourself into a wider mindset, which is what we're doing when we go into the Holy of Holies, because the priest would go into the Holy of Holies on behalf of the entire people of Israel. Okay, so the Kohen has to go in carrying the Shekhinah with them. When we go into prayer, we should go in praying for the sake of the Shekhinah for all beings on earth. And that includes you. So when you are going into prayer to pray for something that you are feeling tsuris about, you know that the Shekhinah is feeling that tsuris as well, and that bonds you to all beings and to God. And from that place, you can offer prayers and offer healing to the Shekhinah and to the world. So good Shabbos to everyone. Sending you blessings for a sweet Shabbat, a meaningful Shabbat, and a connective Shabbat in which we do Shabbat for the sake of the whole world. Shabbat Shalom.